Hey everyone. Okay, so more than anything else, one thing I loved about this chapter is how it gave Professor Weiss his time to shine. Like, up until this point, I think it's fair to say the professor has really only ever been a secondary supporting character, and maybe not even that. Like, anything we know about Professor Weiss has only ever been told to us by people who know him or experienced through the perspective of the Weiss we know. But the professor himself has kind of just largely remained in the background. He's been a mystery throughout the series, but in this chapter, I like how we do see just how tactical and analytical he is, and as alongside Feather, he pretty much runs point operations for the crew to avoid getting trapped by Joker, and just seeing him take on that more active role within this chapter and within the story, it not only makes him feel like he has much more of a presence in the story, but I also like how it does give R. Weiss a bit more of a look into what he could be capable of if he learned how to use his ether gear in more creative ways. Well, because let's be real, at the same like when we see what Professor Weiss does in here, he's using his ether gear in a way that honestly in ways that I don't think even Weiss ever thought about, and I think it's a good lesson for Weiss to learn of like how you can use your ether gear in various ways, not just for combat, not just for for minuscule things. There are ways in which you can creatively use your ether gear, and it's doing all that while at the same time still showing the professor. Well, at the same time, we still see R. Weiss showing the professor something he's capable of with the Arsenal suit, and it's just that kind of back and forth that really gave this chapter a lot of personality, just from being able to see how the professor thinks and acts, and showing that while the professor can act like a goofball, much like his younger self, age and experience has made him a very capable strategist, able to organize what is arguably the most coordinated attack we've seen from the crew in taking out the Joker copies. And honestly, just getting to see the crew work together so efficiently in the way they do in this chapter is always fun to see. But I especially like when we see them in that more coordinated measure. When I don't get me wrong, I do like when we see them struggle, when we see them fumble. But I think I kind of just like it more when we see the crew being put into that scenario where they're able to act in a much more coordinated manner. It feels like they're much more of a. It just makes them feel much more like they pretty much they know each other's strengths, and like they're put in a situation where they know each other's strengths and weaknesses by heart, and they know how to act, upon those strengths and weaknesses, I guess you could say. I'm not gonna lie though. I do feel sorry for Weiss though, because after getting an informal introduction to the professor, you just know Laguna and the others are not gonna let him live this down. They are gonna lord this over him for years to come and say like, that's what you're gonna look like in 50, 60 years from now. Like, yeah, you're gonna turn into an old man with an afro, with a mullet or something like that. Like, you just know they're gonna say something to kind of fucking jab at him with. And yeah, with that said though, let's talk about the two major turning points of this chapter, which is that Connor and Rachel tell the others to leave them behind and basically and pretty much use their final moments in order to say a heartfelt hug and goodbye to Rebecca. But simultaneously running from that, a Joker copy slipped under everyone's radar and boarded the Eden Zero, prepared to kill Hermit and Witch, and I guess just the Starshines in general. And I'm gonna be honest. This is definitely a case where one of these feels like a red herring. The other, I'm not as so sure about. Like the one that does feel like a little bit like a red herring, I get the most from the Connor and Rachel. Like, maybe it's just me, but I'm having a hard time imagining any real scenario where they don't survive this. Like, despite being surrounded by Joker bots, it feels like that Rachel and Connor still have the most likely chance of making it out of this okay. The Hermit and Witch one though, that's a little more complicated for me to puzzle through, because on one hand, I don't think he would kill Witch or even Valkyrie. So I don't think Mashima would kill Witch or Valkyrie so soon after bringing them back. But I can't lie, it's harder for me to say the same about Hermit or hell, maybe even Ivory, like Sister Ivory. Like, it does feel like Mashima is. It's just like with that last page reveal, Mashima is setting the stage for at least one Starshine to die here. And unfortunately, I can't help but think that Hermit, more than the others, is probably the most likely one to not make it out of this. Simply because as the sort of tech nerd of the crew, she is the one who does pose the biggest threat to Joker. If you really think about it, like when you really look at like Joker and like Joker's abilities and Hermit's abilities, they're. But both these characters are very proficient hackers. They pretty much they know their way around technology. They know their way around coding, and because of that, because Hermit is so in direct opposition, has such a direct oppositional like ability to Joker, she is the one who poses the most threat to Joker. So in that sense, yeah, I think Joker is kind of the one is gonna go after Hermit the most. And yeah, I think she is gonna die. I guess on a slightly lighter note though, I can't lie, I did get a little bit of chuckle out of Pino breaking the fourth wall when the professor told her to hold on to a hard drive, saying it has all this saying, and with Pino saying it has all the signs of a death flag, and that if he must tell her something, then do it later, which ironically might be its own death flag, but I'm gonna hold off judgment on that one, honestly. Like I can't because it's kind of just like a passing joke. I can't know for certain whether he's whether he's taking that as serious foreshadowing or not. But like it's a nice way of addressing the whole like. It's a nice way of kind of addressing the whole death flag phenomenon in Shonen, while at the same time saying he could die too. With that said, I also like how we did get a lot of Feather working alongside the crew in this chapter, and even more so, we got confirmation of the difference between her powers and Noah's, because when her power was first introduced, I remember wondering, okay, so what exactly is the difference between her power and Noah's Eye of God? But upon reflection, I don't think the reach of her power can extend beyond time and space, as we've seen, but also one thing that this chapter proved, and honestly is a bit of an advantage compared to Noah's Eye of God, is the ability to detect mechanical life forms, which is how she was able to act as a point man alongside Professor Weiss. And despite my concerns about one of the Starshines dying, that power could be the one thing that saves them. Like, I still firmly believe at least one of the Starshines is going to die. Again, most likely Hermit. But if all the Starshines do make it out of Miltz alive, then Feather's Eye of Venus is the thing that will likely save them. But again, even by that metric, even looking at it from that metric, the idea of everyone making it off of Miltz safe and sound and alive is a little too optimistic in my view, and it just makes too much sense to kill. It makes too much sense in the idea that, yeah, Hermit is going to be the one to be killed. Like, not even, again, because of the threat you could pose to Joker even, but also because it just feels like the idea of having the ones being given the second chance, the better chance of surviving. It feels like the ones being given the second chance have the better chance of surviving, whereas the ones who have been with the crew the longest are the more likely ones to die as well. So, yeah, there's that as well. But, yeah, guys, that's from Chilla God for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, comment on Twitter, and in this Crunchyroll, be sure to notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight Vinay, signing off. Later, everyone.